and we welcome to Win TV our guest, LaTanya Brooks, also an author and a storyteller. And Shevry told me, LaTanya, to make sure you unmute yourself so that when you start talking, we can hear you.
Okay, I just did.
Great. So you've written a book called Brown Like Me, and tell us about this road to being an author and publisher, and what the book is about.
Okay, so there are actually two books that are very similar. This is A Brown Girl Like Me, and it is a journey through her story instead of history.
Okay.
And the companion book is for an older audience. So this is These Shoulders I Stand On.
Wow.
And that's a picture of my daughter.
Okay, beautiful.
So I dedicated the book to her.
Uh-huh.
So I initially started writing books to inspire kids to pursue STEM-related careers. I was looking at the stats, and I'm looking at how the world is changing and how technology is impacting the world. I teach in pre-K through 8. So I always talk to my students about the future while I'm teaching them so that they can take control of their education, but we can make sure that their learning is intentional. So we talk about careers that used to be that no longer exist. And then we start talking about these careers that exist now that are going to be sustainable in the future. So we also go over what makes a career sustainable. And so when I was looking at the stats of African American and Latinas in the field of STEM, as far as doctors, just all fields, engineering, and the list goes on. But when I was looking at the numbers, I was pretty perplexed because women make up about 50% of the workforce, but we only make up about maybe 24, 25% of STEM-related careers. And then when you look at Black women, we're at 3%, and Latinas are at, I think, somewhere between 5 and 7%. And so, but Blacks in general are not in these fields. And I don't push my kids, I inspire them. So if there's something else they want to do, if there's another path they want to follow, I support them in everything I do. I also support them in entrepreneurship. I think that's a big step we have to take in claiming our space in the world, where we talk about oppression, but we need to become leaders and we need to bring up our community. So I think entrepreneurship is also an excellent way to do that.
Let's go back to STEM though, because to me that's that's a word, science, technology, engineering, and math, right?
Yes.
And that, like you said, it encompasses so much. And this generation of young people have just been brought up. They're immersed in technology. They may not even know what STEM means, but they certainly do know cell phones, and they know apps, and they know the video games and all of that.
Yep.
That's their world. They don't even watch television anymore because they know how to stream and use all these other applications that are just part of life for them. Yes. So how do you translate that into career opportunities? How do you help them to understand that you are not just a consumer of this, but now you can be an entrepreneur or a producer of this technology?
Okay, so right now we are creating video games.
Okay.
And so I am telling my students, okay, so when you play a video game, what makes it exciting? So they have to figure out, okay, what makes a good video game? There has to be a way to win or lose. You don't want to make it too hard, but you don't want to make it too easy. You want to create different levels. So we talk about that, and then I go on to introduce them to software and say, okay, so let's see what you got. And so I let them create their own video games. First, we do one together so they can learn the concepts. And then I have them each create one of their own. Another thing that I have been doing the past couple of weeks is, and these are my younger students, so I'm just really proud of them. We talk about electrical energy. And so I try to keep everything related to what they're doing in their classroom because I want everything to be relatable. So they're talking about electrical energies so I keep up with the core curriculum so I can just bring everything in. And they are actually creating video game controllers and musical instruments, and they're hooking a circuit board to the computer, and they are playing these. I mean, some of them are made of cardboard and fasteners and Play-Doh. And when they understand the concept that this works and why it works and how it works, that's opening the door to their inquisitive nature to make them want to know more about these things. And one more thing.
Yeah, because I want to get to the book before get back to the subject of your book. But go ahead.
Another thing that amazes them is I'll just have them open up something simple as Notepad in Windows and give them some basic code and tell them to save it. When they save it, they see that just this basic code turned into a red page with yellow words with titles and stuff. Wow. And it just makes them thirsty for more. So I just introduce concepts in a fun way.
Wonderful. It sounds exciting. I mean, I'd love to be sitting in your classroom. But with your two books, particularly the one, These Shoulders I Stand On, how did you pick? Well, tell us. The book is about, I guess, women that you selected to recognize. And since we're in Women's History Month, I want to know, how did you choose these women to write about?
I chose some of them on my own. This was originally supposed to be just a few poems that I was writing because I was so inspired by the influx of women that were running for Congress and Senate in 2020 and the election of Kamala Harris. So I started asking for suggestions. So some of the students at my school gave me some suggestions. They threw some names out there, and some of my colleagues, friends. I was just asking everybody for suggestions because I wanted a well-rounded book that highlighted the successes of different women. So some of the women are abolitionists, some are activists, some are, one is Oprah Winfrey. We have Maya Angelou, who spoke to the world through poetry. I have Simone Biles. So I wanted somebody that anybody could really, I wanted a book, that had enough different characters that when someone is reading it, when one of my readers or one of my kids is reading A Brown Girl Like Me, that they could see themselves in somebody in my book and want to learn more about that person.
And so, unfortunately, I have not seen it. So is it a picture book? And you mentioned poetry. What's in it?
Okay, so A Brown Girl Like Me is really similar to These Shoulders I Stand On. So These Shoulders I Stand On is a coffee table book. So it's a book of poetry. It goes in chronological order, starts from Sojourner Truth and goes to Kamala Harris.
I got you. And how many women do you feature in that book?
28.
Okay.
And then I have 27 in this book because this is A Brown Girl Like Me. So since it's A Brown Girl Like Me, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not featured in this one, but she is in These Shoulders I Stand On. Mm-hmm. So the children's book has more of a storyline where she actually meets a fairy guide that takes her back. It takes her to the 1800s. And so she just goes on a journey and marking her passport as she learns more and more. It starts off here, where she's, and she ends up morphing into the TV, and that's where the story begins.
Oh, that's cool.
She ends up in the 1800s.
Right. No, that sounds like a movie, actually, or a kid's show as well. So how can people get copies of the book?
They can go to my website. I'm going to give you just my parent website because it's just easier, I think. It's EDGEU Spire And actually, here it is. Here it
Oh,
is right
nice. Okay. All righty. Good. And I
there.
didn't add wonderful. And
And
so
many
you
of my
can
books are,
order.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Many of my books are also available on Amazon.
Wonderful. Okay. And you mentioned that you're teaching. Where are you teaching?
I'm teaching in Houston Independent School District at a public Montessori school. So the name of the school that I teach at is Baker Montessori, Ella J.
Okay.
Baker. And we just changed the name from Woodrow Wilson to Ella J. Baker.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, you're right there in the heat of the
Yes,
debate
the
over.
controversy.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes. And how,
voting
I mean, it's a whole
rights.
nother story, but how are you
Yes.
handling, the teaching of this subject matter in your class, or is it that you don't teach this in class? You teach
No, I
this.
do. I
Okay.
do, and it's
All right.
welcomed.
Mhm.
It's welcomed at my school, and I teach in a very diverse school, so it's not a majority Black or Hispanic. It's very diverse, and it's appreciated. The children ask questions, and they're very inquisitive. So I teach it. It's welcomed, and I think that everybody should.
Wonderful. I am so glad that you were able to join us today and to share both of those books with us. We hope that our viewers will reach out to on Amazon or your website specifically, eduspire.com, and get copies and make sure you share them. Our kids need books. We need libraries. We need positive messages, right?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
And
Thank you
best
for
wishes.
having me.
Okie doke.